In today's video, we take a trip down memory lane where we check out my awesome retro PC that I've built from an old case I had and other parts I had laying about. I want to update you on how that's gone. If you've seen previous videos, you may have seen this computer in the videos, but I'm just going to update you on what I've done with it recently and what I'm perhaps plan to do with it in the future. I'm Dave from DOSBite and I do weekly content on retro computers and retro games. So if that sounds interesting, like and subscribe, and let's continue with this video. So I just thought I'd update you then on what I've done with this particular retro PC. If for those of you that are here on a weekly basis, you're probably wondering why I'm somewhere different. I like to be in different places, plus it's raining today, hence why we're indoors. But with this retro computer, at the moment it has Windows 98. Originally, just to give you a bit of background, it was the last Packard Bell that my family bought, or more specifically I bought. It was the first computer I bought with my own money. And at the time, I really liked Packard Bells. We've had a couple in the family at the time. And I just thought, why not? But sadly, I sort of went for the cheap option, and it had Windows XP, which is a fantastic operating system. But the computer that I had, it just wasn't quite powerful enough for it. So if you did any more than load up Windows, it just seemed to struggle. So it was a bit of a flop, really. But it was a computer that I had laying about, and I always really liked the case. And for those of you that might have seen previous videos, it must be about 3 or 4 years ago now, I decided to make it a retro PC. My director's just checking out what's going on. And so what I did, I kept the case, and inside it has a Celeron, which I think is like 1.1 gigahertz. It had I think it had a 20 gigabyte old school hard disk, you know, typical DVD drive, floppy disk drive, you know, very basic spec. So what I basically did was I swapped out a couple of the drives for newer ones, so it run them a bit smoother. I had a Windows 98, a drive with Windows 98 on from a previous Packard Bell. That was one of my favourite Packard Bells of all time. So I basically just took that out, put this into this case, loaded it up, let it do its, you know, install its drivers and stuff. And then, so it basically ran much better on Windows 98, and it just seemed an easy way to do it, to have a hard drive that already had everything installed and games on it from this previous Packard Bell. So I basically loaded it up, and then I had a brief problem that you may remember. I've done a few videos about sort of a year or two ago, where I had to fix a sound problem. I fixed that. Long story short, I got like a little USB dongle. I plugged it in, installed it with a few restarts of the computer. And then and then got the sound working, and you know, it's been a nice little retro PC ever since with Windows 98, and with the spec that was already inside the case, it ran it perfectly, and it just became a much better computer. Now what the problem was is it's just bulky, and you know, years went by, I got my first retro laptop, which some of you may know. And to be fair, I just prefer them because they're more mobile, they're easier to set up, take up less space. And to be honest, when I do retro gaming, I just prefer one of my retro laptops. I have two at the moment, but that's a whole different story. But I just thought today I would sort of get it out and stuff like that, my retro PC. So I sort of set it up. And I had a few little problems because I haven't actually properly set it up or played on it for absolutely ages. So
now, if you would like to support everything we do here on the channel, you can go and check out my Facebook group page, where there's over 400,000 members sharing their retro tech and games. You can like and subscribe to the channel. You can always click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, read the blog about all what's going on here on the channel, behind the scenes and video ideas and so much more. And you can follow that or buy us a coffee, and that supports everything we do here. And you can also check out affiliate links, when you click on any of the links, buy anything on Amazon, and that gives us a small commission which supports the channel. Like, subscribe, but ultimately just watch the videos, enjoy the content, and follow us now on this journey to 10,000 subscribers. Come on, we've got this. Why? Because we're the DOSBite community.
I had a few little problems sort of starting out. I thought I plugged in the right mouse. I didn't like that mouse, and you needed an old mouse to recognise a mouse for it to be able to click the options to install a new mouse. Anyway, so I looked around everywhere and I thought, I'm not going to be able to, you know, do much with this. So I sort of filmed the case, and as you may have seen by now, I got some nice B-roll. I don't know, there's something about opening up the case, and I love watching the, you know, the fans go around, especially the one on the CPU. I don't know why, there's something cool about it, why it's on, and I love the clunkiness of the old hard drives every time you try and load a game up, like that sounded more like old school dial-up internet, but you get the point. But I just love watching these run and stuff like that. It just gives a bit of joy. Anyway, so long story short, I was just about to give up on finding a mouse, and I just went in the studio and found it by accident, and I plugged that in. It was just an old Microsoft mouse. And I was able then to get the computer working, and you know, because I hadn't been on for a while, it wanted to install certain things and got all scared. So after restarting the computer a few times, I then had a little go on some games. I didn't bother plugging in any speakers, just because by that point I was just like, no. So had a little go on sort of SimCity, you know, CivNet. I was going to have gone Need for Speed, but I couldn't find the disc. So then I loaded up Doom, and then for some reason it got scared over that. It probably needs DOS, and I'm not sure that computer actually has DOS on it. It may do. I can't remember. But you know, so I really like this machine, and some ideas I've had with it is, do I take out the floppy disk drive and put on one of those drives where you can have like a USB port, and you can have like a virtual memory type thing, and have games sort of off that, or I believe you can actually save. It has lots of different saves. I think, is it up to 99 on this? I forgot what they're called. And each save is almost like a floppy disk, so you can save games on all these like virtual floppy disks, and you could play games off that. That'd be quite cool. But I don't know, for me there is something about just putting a floppy disk into a computer, into a floppy disk drive, and you know, the scratchy noises they make when they load up, and they always take ages to load. But there's something nostalgic about just loading up a game from a floppy disk that I really like, and I love that. So that's one thing I thought about, maybe buying some sort of basic graphic card, so it just run games maybe a bit smoother. Maybe get a proper sound card. That's something I could do. I think it was mentioned when I talked about this previously. So there's lots of things I could do with this. To be honest though, I think I'm going to wait till I get a bigger place, and maybe I'll have a bit more room so I can enjoy it. You know, it's just lack of space at the moment, really. But when I've got a bigger place, I'd quite happily have a little corner of retro computers, have one or two set up at a time, and then alternate between them depending on what's going on. And that'd be really cool. That's something I'd like for the channel. That's something that I would like for that. If you're getting value so far, don't forget to like and subscribe, and why not check out our affiliate links where you can buy a floppy disk and relive your memories, and anything you buy on Amazon through our links we get a small commission, which helps everything here on the channel. And just going from there, just a brief update talking about these retro computers. I did yesterday at the time of this video try to get the monitor fix on my Sinclair, which I will make a video about when I finally get that fixed, but the shop I went to was closed, annoyingly, and then I tried it at a couple of other places and it was too old. So yeah, I'm going to continue to try, because all it needs is a switch fixing. It just needs someone who knows how to do it, and I just think that'd be really cool. But going back to the retro PC, you know, it's just, there's something nostalgic about loading up Windows 98, Windows 95, you know, playing your favourite games. For me, put in the comments below actually, what was your favourite sort of era of gaming? For me, it was like DOS leading into sort of Windows 95, Windows 98, and my golden era of gaming was like, probably like the mid-90s, so things like CivNet and Age of Empire and Need for Speed and FIFA 97. For me, that really was, for me, the golden era. That was when I really started out playing you know, different sorts of games. Take yourself down corridors, like in games like Wolfenstein or Doom. Relive your childhood memories. Get yourself a floppy disk drive. Click on one of our links in the description below. Load your games onto floppy disk and relive your memories as a child. That sounds interesting to you. Click on those links. We get anything off Amazon. We get a small commission which supports everything we do here on the channel. I thank you in advance, and I'll see you in a video. You know, just before that, on like the DOS era with our Amstrads, which I talked about in last week's video, you know, those really early DOS games that felt ahead of their time in its day, you know, like Prince of Persia and Steel Empire. So, you know, this really is a golden era for me, and it's probably why I still use my retro laptops to this day, mainly to play, yes, you guessed it, CivNet. So if you'll get value so far, like and subscribe. Go and check out my blog. There's a link to that in the description. You can read about everything that's going on and ideas I got, and I share stories and stuff like that. You can buy us a coffee, which again supports the channel. And please put in the comments below, what is your favourite retro computer of all time? And on that note, I'm going to leave you with 2 end cards that are going to bring you absolute value. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and you know, just going, come on Dave, you know. But thank you so much for watching. The support, your support really does mean the world. So on that note, see you in the next video. Why? Well, obviously, you guys rock.